words, one thing metal fans have always hated is when you have a real cutting edge metal sound, and then the rest of the music industry or the rest of the music genres take bits and pieces of that metal and they would say water it down.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, what used to be, say Megadeth or Metallica turns into this, what they call power metal, this power pop metal. And metal fans hate that. So I think that the growl vocals were a conscious attempt by a lot of bands to create something that could not be watered down. In other words, to find out, who the true metal fans are. In other words, it's kind of like paying your toll at the gate. In other words, okay, the growl vocals you deal with to get the real in-your-face true metal.
Mm-hmm.
And, that idea rings true to me because, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, and I agree a lot is lost. I mean, I'm a big one for lyrics. Let's be right up front with that. That's one of the reasons I like Black Sabbath is, I just love their lyrics. Priest, Iron Maiden, great lyrics. If you can't make out the lyrics, then I do think you're losing something. I really do. I mean, that's why, Goat Whore I really like, and a couple of bands that, they walk that line between, what would you say, vocal legibility, vocal audiobility, and yeah. So no, I understand both sides of that argument perfectly well. I don't know. Are you listening? You like the old school metal. Is there any new metal that you like, Chuckles? Since we haven't talked about the music in a while, come to think of it.
I'm a big fan of Avenged Sevenfold. They're a newer metal band out there. I enjoy their stuff. And before that, I know our producer here, Tony Jones, is going to throw something at my head, but I was also, before they went downhill, System of a Down. I enjoyed listening to them.
You're not alone. I tried. I guess that's an acquired taste, or either you like kind of like pro wrestling. You get it or you don't. I mean, I don't. A lot of people do. So,
right. And of course, Disturbed, they're incredible. Mm-hmm. I would put them in the metal band, and they're still doing well. And I remember catching them on stage 2 at Ozfest and seeing the crowd and looking up at these guys saying, wow, these guys aren't going to be a garage metal band much longer.
Isn't that a great feeling when you identify one?
Yep.
And you're right?
And the next year, they were on stage 1 with their big album going and everything, and it was like, wow, I didn't see it going that quickly, but it did.
Yeah, I was thinking, Goat Whore hasn't had that breakthrough yet. I mean, I think they've released enough great material that they should have had it happen, but hasn't yet, so that's why I keep pushing for them.
That's one of the things that's missing with Ozfest. If they had Ozfest out there, one of the great things about Ozfest was getting some of these little bands out there and letting them try out on this big stage that everybody's seeing.
Right, because in spite of social media, it's still hard, especially when you talk about things like metal. I know, it's all about the music. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not. I mean, from the early days of rock and roll, whatever you want to call it, from the days of Chuck Berry all the way through, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, up to, Lady Gaga and Kiss, and all the way right up to the current metal bands. There is a visual element. There has always been a visual element, and I don't want to say, I know needs to be is a little strong, but there needs to be. I mean, if you question that statement, just go to a local club and watch a band stand up there in their work clothes and stare at their shoes while they play.
Right.
I think that proves that statement. So, you need the music and you need that visual component. And you don't get the visual component. Well, you do. I mean, obviously, if you watch YouTube, if you watch your videos on social media, yes, you can see the band, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as seeing a band in full fury at an event like Ozfest or Mayhem Fest. They're still kicking around.
Yeah, they're still kicking. But then when you have bands like Slipknot and my wife is going to stab me, Linkin Park headlining, that is not metal. Linkin Park is okay. They're an okay band, but they are not metal.
My back, Chuckles' wife is in the studio, but my back is to her, so she can't see the grimace on my face when you said both, Slipknot and Linkin Park. So.
Yeah, she likes both of them.
A lot of people like both of them, but they don't. You're right. They don't belong. No, they don't belong on the Mayhem Fest.
Definitely do not.
And they especially don't. Slipknot especially does not belong on the Mayhem Fest stage following Slayer. because that implies something that I do not like.
Right. That more people are listening to that than Slayer.
Or that Slayer is in other words, the last band of the night at a big event is the headline band. Mm-hmm. No matter what no matter what you want to say about co-headliners, no. The last band at a big event is the headline band, and Slayer went on before Slipknot. And I left in protest. I refuse. No. In this universe, that should not happen. Now, even though Slayer has slipped a little bit in recent years, even though there's a numbing sameness that's crept into their songwriting, even though Hanneman's dead, I mean, they're still Slayer, and never in this universe should Slayer come before Slipknot.
I mean, isn't that odd? I mean, you look at some of the bands that were playing at Mayhem Fest. You got Korn, Manson, some of all these other metal bands out there, and then all of a sudden Linkin Park. That does not fit.
Well, it fits financially.
Yeah.
It fits financially. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, they have to pay the bills. They want to get an audience in there. But I don't know, that it's a little disturbing, that they can't fill the place with just one. Myself, when I go to a club or I go to an event, now I know that diversity is supposed to be wonderful if you're a multiculturalist. I know that diversity, we're supposed to be open-minded to diversity, and usually I am. I mean, I eat all kinds of food, go out with all kinds of women. That's okay. But if I'm in the mood for a certain type of music, and it's not always metal, that's my favorite, but it's not always. But if I'm in the mood for a certain type of music, I don't want to be diverted from that.
Right.
I mean, if I go to a metal fest, I want metal. If I go to a rhythm and blues thing, I want rhythm and blues. Slayer shouldn't be at a rhythm and blues fest with George Benson any more than, Linkin Park should be on the bill with Slayer. It's just not right.
It is awkward, and I'm not bashing Linkin Park. They're a good band.
Oh no,
they're outstanding, but they just don't belong at this venue. I mean, you got guys like Motorhead that headline this thing, and then all of a sudden you have like a couple of years later Linkin Park. It's like what? I mean, I know what you're saying. They want money and they want to keep this thing going, but they had their own fest. Linkin Park used to go around doing their own thing. What happened to that? It fizzle out, and now they got to jump onto this?
That's a good question. Now, Korn was doing right. Now, Korn is attached to metal.
Yeah, Korn
festivals too.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I don't know if that is that because the audiences are bleeding together, so to speak.
Could be
more and more. Or I'll tell you, it's one thing is good about this musically, in that with social media, with YouTube, with all the different ways to listen to music these days, there's not that separate generational thing, and I guess it's good in a way, bad in a way. You always like to say, "Oh, my music's great, your music sucks." That was, for every generation of American kids that grew up since the 1950s, they always got to say that. Your parents' music sucked and yours is great, and the parents criticize it, and everybody fights and they're happy. Your parents wouldn't be caught dead, at a show that the kid, this one. Relative, maybe up until the 80s, maybe. But then, now everything's kind of like blurred together. The edges have fallen. I mean, and I think would you say that's because of the internet? In other words, a kid today, 15-year-old kid, just surfing around, they're going to hear everything from the song that came out yesterday to, right next, back to back with Aerosmith, right back to back with Janis Joplin, back to back with Hatebreed, back to back with in other words, it's all out there like a big soup,
right?
A big witch's brew.
I think they're copying Tony Jones. Now, have you ever been to one of our shows there where there's a mix of unplugged
obviously,
metal?
very much so.
I think they're copying him, and he should get out there and start suing. They're taking his ideas out there. They're introducing everybody to a little bit of everything. I see this coming up, and you're right, because I just went and saw like 2 years ago Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie, both shock rockers. But both, two different genres. You had the folks that were my parents' age there, and then you had my age there. And one of the biggest differences you'll see is when Rob Zombie came on, there was this thing called moshing. And yet you had all the people that were my parents' age that were really pissed off this was going on.
Right, not just. You're right. I've seen that exact thing happen. It's not just they don't participate, or they just decline to participate. They're actually pissed off because it's ruining their good time.
Right, because they came to Alice Cooper. And Alice Cooper does not pit. You get drunk or you get lit up or something at Cooper, but you don't pit there.
Right. And even more scary is that last time I saw Alice Cooper, some of these people were too geriatric to stand up for the whole show. I mean, I remember that's just bothersome to me. I mean, the same people that will complain about the moshing, at least find it in you, no matter how deteriorated you are. If you're going to go see a rock band, I don't care if they're a band from the 60s and you're some grandfather or something, you can't stand up for an hour to hear the music and see the band that played this music that you first got laid to. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You can't stand up in honor. You go to a political rally and you stand up for an hour and clap for this piece of garbage that's, running for office. You go to church and you kneel, you stand, you sit, you kneel, you stand for an hour, and you can't do the same thing for the band that made you, well, in Chuckles' case, made you what you are today. I'm not sure who's to blame for that, but you get my point. I mean, too many people above a certain age are going to rock shows now, and which is one reason why hip-hop, by the way, is the cutting-edge music now, or at least, and metal and hip-hop, they're the cutting-edge music, because old, ordinary rock is being attended by people that sit down at the shows. This is the biggest dividing line, like you just said. The other one the other one is the mosh pit and the non-moshers. That's the one big line. The other big line is the standees and the sitties. Disgusting situation. All right. Speaking of Alice Cooper, let's go. Devil's Food. Let's go with the Welcome to My Nightmare album. Alice Cooper, Devil's Food on the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio. But yeah, good point, Chuckles.
Lepidoptera, please don't touch the displays, little boy. Oh, cute. Moving to the next aisle, we have Arachnidae, the spiders, our finest collection. This friendly little devil is the Heptathylidae, unfortunately harmless. Next to him, the nasty Lycosa raptoria. His tiny fangs cause creeping ulcerations of the skin. And here, my prize, the Black Widow. Isn't she lovely and so deadly? Her kiss is 15 times as poisonous as that of the rattlesnake. You see, her venom is highly neurotoxic, which is to say that it attacks the central nervous system, causing intense pain, profuse sweating, difficulty in breathing, loss of consciousness, violent convulsions, and finally, death.